Interesting. So, hey everyone, I hope you had a great start for the Monday here in India. And so we have Sebastian joining today, excited for the event. So I will give a little bit introduction about Sebastian and what he's trying to do, and myself as well. So Sebastian is the CEO and co-founder at Medusa. So that's an open source Shopify alternative, and really excited for the things they are trying to do. So really excited, and today they had a big product launch and we have 17 attendees. Hey everyone, you can drop where are you watching from, and really excited for this. And today we are going to discuss about the journey of Medusa JS and how it actually evolved as a product, and right now they are moving into the higher levels of the product. So over to you, Sebastian.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. I've been very excited about this. And as Joshua mentioned, we've been doing the product hunt today, launched on the platform, and things have been moving along quite well. It's super exciting to finally sort of open up to the world about what we've been building and where we're going. So super excited to also see lots of people in here. I wanted to sort of just start from the beginning, the origin story of Medusa and why we ended up building this platform. The story goes that me and Oliver, one of my co-founders, we were running an e-commerce agency, and we were helping people do everything from setting up their first store to integrating with different systems, and actually, also expanding into other markets. And in that process, when working with these clients, we often found ourselves in situations where the best practice for solving X problem was really hacky. And when we were doing the problem or during the implementation of the solution to a problem with the platforms that were existing, we just felt that it was cringy and it was not something that was great for our professional pride. And we thought that there must be something that's better than that. We just weren't able to find it, but we luckily had this one customer called Tekla Fabrics who wanted to build something bespoke, and that gave us a chance to start from scratch and build the solution that we always wished existed. And in that process, obviously, we had to focus long and hard about making our own lives easier. Actually, in the beginning, when we started out, we didn't really know where we would be going. We just knew that we should make our own lives easy and make everything possible for Tekla, right? So we started building a full platform with a CMS system, a fulfillment system that would be able to communicate with different couriers and stuff like that. But we quite quickly realized that building so much at the same time was just not feasible. So we started sort of picking things apart. And over these iterations, we came to this architecture, which we found out was called headless, where everything is sort of integrated through nice APIs, and the data just exists in Medusa and sort of with Medusa becoming the key integrator between all of the different systems. So that's sort of the quick story of how we got to this headless open source solution.
Interesting. I think now we have around 5,000 stars on GitHub. I think that's really great. It was how was the journey? I mean, like growing the project after you made it open source. Yeah, 6,000 as Joe mentioned.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, maybe we should start with why we even open sourced it in the first place, because obviously we've been working so hard on, figuring out how we should build everything, and then at one point we decided to say, okay, let's just open it up to everyone and give it away for free. And that revelation and that point where we decided to do that came when we were working closely with Tekla, and we were seeing that their requirements were changing all the time, and they had to sort of be able to evolve their tech stack without relying on central third party. So open sourcing it allowed a company like Tekla to take full ownership over their commerce stack and really drive the roadmap for where they're going. So that was how we started. Then obviously in the beginning, you just open source things, and it's just like working in your regular private environment. And then slowly, when we started telling people about it, we started writing articles and blog posts about Medusa. We saw the traction picking up, and then we also, in this whole journey, we also set up a Discord server to make sure that the community had somewhere to go where they could be heard, and also where we could help out and see them help each other. And that's obviously also a thing that really gives a good boost, because when it's open source, it's all about making sure the community is really taking part in the product journey, and I think that's when you start seeing the real growth in GitHub stars and stuff like that.
That's awesome. So there's a question. So how did you come up with the name Medusa?
Yeah, so the Medusa name, actually, it was, so obviously we're building headless e-commerce, and the story goes that Medusa, who's this Greek mythological figure, she was killed by having her head chopped off. So it's a far-fetched sort of link between the name and the mythological figure. And then it also just sounds cool. Like, who wouldn't want to try out Medusa? So that's the way. And actually, the name came up from long discussions with, among others, one of the founders of Tekla. And I think he was actually the first to mention it. And then it just stuck. So that was how that story goes.
Interesting. That's great. So maybe we would like to see about your new features and what's coming new in this release. So maybe if you could share and share the screen. And
yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. All right, let me just close this down first, because I wanted to sort of show how you get started with Medusa in the first place. And it's really easy. We have this npx command called create Medusa app. And once you run that, it will sort of take you through the steps of creating a new Medusa store. So you have to give your project a name. Then you have some starters that you can choose from. We're going to go with the default starter. And then it also asks you to set up a storefront in the beginning. So if you want something to start out from. So obviously, Medusa is the backend that runs everything behind the scenes and takes care of all the business logic and stuff like that. And then you'll have to have a storefront on top of that. So we have a couple of starters here. We're going to go with the Medusa Express starter. And then what this command does is it installs the Medusa server itself. It installs the storefront, and it also installs the new admin system that we've released today as part of the product hunt launch. So this command takes a couple of minutes to both set everything up and also install the packages. So in order for us not to wait for that, I've been cheating a bit and have everything running here. So as you can see, this right here is the admin, this is the backend, and the storefront is over here. So once you have everything up and running, you'll see the admin system here. So this is the new admin system that we've been redesigning for the past, I don't know, month or so, month and a half, I think. The team has been working really hard on this, and it's quite amazing that we've been able to pull through with such a great result. Yeah, so the first part of really setting up and configuring your store is probably going to happen in the settings here. So when you set up the project I just showed you using create Medusa app, you're actually going to get some dummy data in from the beginning. So you will already see that you have some products in your store. And you also in here have some configured regions that you're selling to. So in Medusa, everything is multi-regional. You can sell to as many countries as you want. You can sell in multiple different currencies. These can be configured over here. So you see you have all the currency settings. And yeah, as I mentioned, so we have regions. By default, you have EU and North America here. And you can see how you can just, add multiple new countries to this region without any sort of issue here. But I think what's most interesting is really the fact that you can control payment providers and shipping providers across different regions. So if you want to sell via Stripe in one region, you can do that. And in another region, you can sell via PayPal, whatever. You can have as many payment providers as you want to. And obviously, you can also set up all your shipping options, etc. in here. And once you have all of this configured, you're basically ready to start selling. And let me spin up because I also have the Medusa Express server running. I think it's here. Yeah, exactly. So we did this small storefront for Medusa, which is basically just a really quick checkout flow. As you can see, we have this product here, the Medusa coffee mug. And let's just go ahead and buy that. Just going to fill in my details. And I can choose the shipping option. And then we're shipping to Sweden, so that's fine. Let's go. So just going to use the Stripe test card here, and that's going to complete the order for me. And as you saw before, where we had this region, this EU region set up, we shopped in euros. You'll also see that if we restart this, whoops. You can also see that if we choose United States, which is in North America region, you can shop in dollars instead. So nice multi-regional support here and multi-currency support. And as you can see, the order that we just made, this one came in. And now we got the order overview. So everything can be handled from within this order overview. So as a customer service person, you typically go in here, look at your orders coming in, then you'd say, okay, we're ready to fulfill this order and send it out. So we pick this order up and say, let's ship the coffee mug. And that will create a fulfillment over here. We can also register this fulfillment as shipped. So that would be the point in time when the package has actually left your packing facility. I'm just going to give it a tracking number. We complete that, and you can see the item is shipped. And what you can also do, obviously, we also need to capture the payment. What you can also do is you can create returns from in here. So if the customer wants to return this coffee mug, we can go in here and say, let's return it. You can even select reasons for returning. And once you hit submit, it will come in as return requested, and then you'd at a later stage receive the return once the return hits your warehouse. Let's just go ahead and cancel this one and try to do an exchange instead. So this is a really powerful function actually, where if you have a customer who has purchased a coffee mug, but they actually wanted the large coffee mug, then instead of having them return the product and then creating a new order, you can just do the entire exchange from within the customer dashboard here. So you select the coffee mug, and once again, you can select reasons for this, and then you can add a new product. I don't think we have multiple coffee mugs. It's just a one size. Let's say that the customer wanted a t-shirt instead. So we'll exchange it for a t-shirt. We'll add that product here, and we can see that the estimated difference for this exchange is going to be 9.5 euros. So we'll complete this. And what would then usually happen is that when you've created this exchange request, it will send a link to your customer, and the customer would then open that link and complete the purchase from the complete the difference payment. So once again, they would go through a checkout flow and they would complete the payment for the difference, and then once that happens, we're ready to fulfill the exchange, basically sending out the new products and also receiving the return at some point. So that's orders. Yeah, I think if we should just briefly look at products, there's also, this is the dummy data that comes in. There's support for having different variants of the products. You can obviously manage everything from name, description, stuff like that. One thing that you might notice here is that it's not like the products here are not the most enriched products in the world. And that's really because we are a headless solution. So we try to keep the data in here as minimal and as clean as possible, so that you can take this data and port it to a CMS system, and then you can do further enrichment in the CMS system. Or you can take the data and put it into an analytics system where you don't necessarily need a bunch of different images and stuff like that. And this is really the key to being flexible and quickly iterating on your e-commerce stack by having this data very, very slim and easy.
Right.
Also see customers, discounts, etc., etc. Lots of great stuff. I recommend that you try it for yourself and give us some feedback on it.
Yeah, definitely. I think
that's
very clean. The recording will be shared after this, so don't worry if you have just tuned into our event. So that's the Q&A section. You can go ahead and ask yours. So let's take a bunch of questions from the community. So
sounds good.
One is from Pramit. What are your thoughts on open source's future in e-commerce?
That's a good question. I think open source in every aspect of the digital world, it has a very bright future. I think one of the key insights that we sort of learned along the way was that when you're building with open source technologies, as a company, like, a merchant, for example, when you're building with open source technologies, you get to own the value that you're creating. So when your e-commerce team is building some new feature, it's not someone else who owns it and controls it. It's yourself and your company. And that really means that as an organization, you're building up a lot of value over time. And especially with a platform like Medusa, which is really, a Medusa merchant can scale from a small mom and pop shop to all the way to the enterprise level. Because every time that they're encountering something that requires further development, they can go out and do that themselves instead of having to look for new platforms to switch to all the time. And what's even more important in this regard, as I mentioned before, is that every time that they do those extensions and those changes, they're contributing with internal value that benefits the organization over a long time. So I think this is not only true for e-commerce. This is also true for a bunch of other areas where when you have open source technologies, you're just you're really in a good space over time. So I think e-commerce or open source in the e-commerce space is just going to be bigger over time. That's my view on it.
That's awesome. I think that truly makes sense. So we have another question by Sankalp. So I'm running because we are out of time. So one such feature which makes folks to choose Medusa over its alternatives.
Sorry, I'm not sure if are we asking for features that make Medusa
stand out
chosen over? Yeah. I think so. Obviously, the customer dashboard the admin dashboard where you can manage everything is really sleek and easy, and you have some powerful functionality in there already, like the exchange functionality and basically all of the powerful customer service stuff that you can do. I also think there is one more underlying feature, which is one of the most powerful reasons for deciding to go with something like Medusa, and that's the architecture and the way that we've designed the APIs that make Medusa work. Because when we started out, we were thinking long and hard, how can we make our own lives easier? Because we didn't want to do work that was unnecessary. So we designed the APIs to be very flexible and to be very extensible. And we try to always sort of abstract things up to a higher level so that whenever you have to, when we're doing search, for example, we're not just going out and building one integration with a search provider. We're going to build the API that can allow you to integrate with multiple different search providers. And this notion of abstracting things up to a higher level and putting that into the Medusa core, that allows you to really be flexible in the way that you evolve your tech stack. So one day you can be using Mealy Search for your search provider. The next day you can switch to something like Algolia or TypeSense without really having to do anything other than changing a single line of code. And that's a really powerful way of sort of, testing out things and growing as a merchant, I think.
Great. I think that answers the question. So we have another by Jacob. Would I have the option to give stored credits against returns and exchanges?
Yeah, so it's not something that we support out of the box. I think it'd be fairly easy to make that feature because, as I mentioned before, there's a bunch of events going on in the Medusa core, and the events are really what controls how data is flowing back and forth and refunds are being created and stuff like that. So you'd easily be able to hook into the point in time when the return is received, and then instead of issuing a refund, you could issue a store credit. So I think this is a great idea. It would be cool to see a PR on a feature like this.
Right. So yeah, we have a few minutes, I think in 5 to 10 minutes. So we have a lot of questions. Meanwhile, if anyone wants to ask questions, there are polls as well. So you can check out the poll section and you can participate and engage with the community. So there is another question from Jose. Who is the competitor you look up to? Is it open source or closed source?
Yeah. I think looking up to someone, that usually means that we admire the work that they're doing. And that's not necessarily the case, but I think there's one behemoth of Shopify that we have to address in this regard. We call ourselves the open source Shopify alternative, and the reason why I'm saying that, obviously Shopify is doing amazing work and lots of great stuff. But for a developer, and when you're working as a developer, what we came to experience too many times was that we had to do hacky work, or we had to do work that that we weren't proud of because it just didn't feel right in the way that the code was supposed to be written. And I think that's what we change here with Medusa. So to answer the question, a competitor that is really huge in this space is obviously Shopify, and that's a closed source solution.
Right. Awesome. So we have another question from Evan. So how is Medusa solving the issue on documentation with multi-language?
We right now we don't have multilingual documentation. But so the answer is that we're not solving that issue. I think I think it would be great to sort of see our documentation being translated into new languages for sure. I think we don't have a strategy for that yet, but we'll come to that at some point, I'm sure.
Right. So there's a follow-up question for the last question from Jose again. Are there any open source competitors for Medusa?
Yeah, there are a bunch of open source e-commerce solutions. Many of them are focused on sort of the enterprise segment. So really the segment that, is after, let's say you are a business and you've gotten to the point where you're selling to multiple different markets and you're really, a huge player in the space, then you start typically looking away from the solutions that exist already. You start looking away from the sort of the getting started solutions to some of the more enterprisey solutions. And all of the existing open source competitors seem to be focusing on that segment. So basically the graduation class after Shopify and WooCommerce and those types of solutions. And I think what we're sort of doing is we're trying to lower the bar for when you can go into a headless space. So we don't focus that much on the enterprise segment. We focus more on saying, okay, how can we get you off of Shopify as early as possible in your journey so that you can get all of those benefits that we touched upon before with, building towards the value of your organization instead of creating integrations from outside of your organization, right? So there are some open source competitors like Salier, couple of others. Magento is also open source. WooCommerce is even open source. But really, many of those are focused on the enterprise segment, right?
Awesome. That's great. I think this is the only one I have seen which is focused on developers, right?
Yeah, I think that's also a good point to bring up, that we build it for ourselves as developers. We focused on really just making our own lives easier, and that was that obviously brought forth the developer focus, right? So
right,
for sure.
Right. Thank you. So there is another one from Siddharth. So what was your journey like while you were looking out for funding? Any tips for other maintainers?
Yeah, I think a funny part of this was that when we started sort of considering looking for funding for our project, we weren't really sure that was something you could do with open source technologies, because how do you monetize open source? That's one big question, right? But we found that the funding space and the VC space, they're really keen on helping these companies grow to a great size, so that we can figure out how we can do these or how we can monetize this. And so when we started looking for funding and talking to investors, it really quickly became very nice conversations, and also we found some really good investors that we brought on board. I think a tip for maintainers is to set up a deck, build a deck, go out and speak to people, look at what is the feedback, start pitching your friends first, and then pitching local angels if such a thing exists, and then when you feel ready and you feel confident that your story is getting heard and that you have something that resonates with people, then go and talk to some more VCs, and eventually you'll probably get an offer. So that's the tip.
Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, it's pretty much what everyone should do. And also, before we conclude, so at Aviyel, we are trying to improve the community of open source projects. So we call ourselves like a voice of open source. So if you are interested, if anyone is interested to learn more about Aviyel, you can explore the articles we are trying to write, and the events. You can go to events page and you can check out the events. And any feedback you can drop to hello@aviyel.com. We would be happy to hear. And I think we are out of time. So it was just half an hour given by Sebastian. And thanks for your time. And I understand because today is the product hunt launch and lots of things come up all of a sudden. But yet you gave us the time. So thanks for this. And anyone can be part of the discussion. So you can you can get the access of the video and the Q&As after this session. So we can continue talking there. And of course, we have our Discord server, and also the Medusa Discord server. So you can communicate there,
sure.
and you can take this conversation forward. And really excited to see
Absolutely.
what are the things that can come up in future. And all the best and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joshua. Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
And make sure to check out the product hunt. And if you like it, upvote. We'd appreciate that. Have a good one.
Yeah. Good day, everyone. Yeah.